Hello, thank you for watching again. Thank you. I want to show you this view real quick. Oh, let me go this way. The screen is mirrored. There we go. Look at that. Wild, wonderful West Virginia. Still pretty out. Oops. Focus in there. Look. Yeah. I've had some rain the last few days with all the leaves having fallen. That's good. Still looks nice. Title of this video is going to be How do you teach math with zero worksheets? I've been offering my students opportunities all year to provide feedback on the class, and a lot of times I'll just stick that question, that open response, into the end of an assessment. All my assessments are digital, so it's easy for me to throw that in on the end where I explain to them that I would like them to reflect on the class, their learning, and offer me some feedback on things that would make the class better, maybe things that they'd like to see me keep doing, things that they wish were happening that's not happening. Basically anything. I just try to open it up. I try to offer them some prompts. A lot of times I'll put, I wish we did more of, or I wish we would keep doing. I just different things just to get them thinking and offer a response. And I do it in an honest way, and I genuinely think that all my students feel that they can be honest in those. I don't hold it against them. I don't discuss them with anybody, you guys, but I don't discuss individual responses. But it's gone really well. I think it's part of developing a culture of learning in the classroom that you should offer your students those opportunities to do that. Not for your benefit only, but also I think in their case, it gets them thinking about the way that they're learning. So many other classes don't offer that opportunity, and they don't even think, I don't even think it enters their mind. Um, for example, I've had this discussion. A lot of students will say, I wish you provided more study guides. So after that, I get to have a quick private conversation with that student, and my goal ultimately would be that they create those study guides. We're in high school. I would like them to use a study guide if they choose to, but I stopped requiring students to write notes from like a PowerPoint several years ago because I just thought it's bad practice. Not every student needs one, and I was forcing every student to make one. I was using up a ton of class time taking those notes, and I realized I've asked students to give me a percentage before. Their guess is usually 95%. So we'll say 95% of students never looked at those notes again. They never looked at them. And honestly, I was one of those students in school. I took notes, but then I never opened them. I didn't use them to study. I brought the notes back up again, like in my dissertation after my students would fail a test. I would say, why didn't you look at your notes? I gave you a study guide. They didn't look at it. So I just cut it out. Now, that doesn't mean, I realized there were some students that benefited from those study guides. There were some students that benefited from those notes, and maybe I'm cutting those students short. I think it would be more valuable if those students learned how to take a study guide, how to take notes themselves, and how to develop one. A tool that would help them and aid them in taking an assessment. To be honest with you, I let them use them in the assessments. You say, that's crazy. You let them make a study guide and then you let them use them? I teach math. What are they going to put on a study guide that I would ask in a test question? If I'm asking them just to regurgitate facts on a test, that's a worthless test. Those aren't the kind of things I'm asking on a test. So I don't mind if they use a study guide, some kind of organizational chart, or anything. That's fine. But I think it'd be more valuable if they invest that time to make it themselves. That's going to help them in the long run. So I have those kind of conversations. This video is not supposed to be about. I may cut that section out. That's not supposed to be about a study guide. Anyways, I get this feedback a lot. How do you teach math without worksheets, Mr. Oldfield? And so I get students writing on their responses, I wish you used more worksheets. Another student, Mr. Oldfield, I would just prefer if you give me worksheets. I'd like to do my work on paper. Worksheets. So in the student's defense, or maybe my defense, not a lot of students are saying this, really. Not a lot of them. But a few are, and there's no common denominator between those few. Is it students that struggle, or is it students that typically just get A's? There's really not a common denominator. I can't pinpoint it. But I am getting a number of students, so I want to address it. I try to have this talk in the classroom, and it didn't go well too. Students tune me out. I suppose it's boring to them. But I do want to take the opportunity to communicate why I don't do these practices anymore. And then to maybe benefit others, what do you do instead? So let me go back to the land of worksheets. This is where I used to be. This is the math classes that I grew up through. We had worksheets, we had homework. By the high school level, you're doing homework every night. Typically, it was out of the book or a worksheet. I I can vaguely remember doing any other kinds of homework for my math classes. It was either out of the book or it was a worksheet. So I used to be that way, and I used to give worksheets. I had this belief that I have to provide feedback on that worksheet. Otherwise, it's kind of meaningless. And for a student that may be watching, think about it. Would you want to do a worksheet and then just have the teacher put some points in the book? Actually, maybe you would. Maybe you would prefer that. Um, but if that's the case, be honest with you, in the interest of learning, I don't think you're learning very much. That's probably bad practice. So maybe that's where the students are coming from when they say I'd rather have more worksheets. But yeah, if you do a 25 question worksheet, 25 problems out of the book, and you do half of them wrong, would you like to know that you're doing them wrong? I would. I mean, but so here's what I used to do. This is my effort to give feedback on homework that was worksheets. I would collect them, or no, we come in the next day. I didn't collect them yet. I'd trade and grade. I'd do the old trade and grade. We used to do this all the time when I was in school. The teacher would pass out red pens. So guess what I did when I became a teacher? I got the red pens out. I passed out red pens. Said, everybody trade your paper. You can trade with the person next to you. That'd be fine. It was always an issue when we'd have an uneven number of students. Oh my goodness, we have 21 students in the class. What's that one person? Who are they supposed to trade with? That's crazy. Everyone already traded. I guess I'll have to hold my own paper, Mr. Oldfield. No, find somebody else to trade with. It didn't matter how many times we'd have the discussion. We'd have to have it again. Same class. It wouldn't matter. 21 students. Oh, I don't have anybody to trade with. So anyways, trade your papers, pass out red pens. Student would do that. I'd carve out that time. So students would pass out the red pens, or I'd pass them down the rows of the classroom. And then I'd call out answers. Number 1 was 7. Number 2 was 5. I'd go a lot slower than this, but number 3 was, and the student hands go up. Mr. Oldfield, I need you to go back to number 1, please. Pay attention, please. Number 1 was -7. Number 2 was this, and I'd go back. The hands would go up again. I'd have to stop. So that practice carried on, and then at the end, I would collect the worksheets, and this is how lazy, I don't know, lazy or goofy I was. I'd put the grades in right then. I'd have them come up one row at a time. I'd collect their papers, and I'd go to the software program and enter the grades. Next row, please. Bring me your papers. Enter them, and I'd pass them right back then. So that whole process, let's be, I don't know, let's be conservative and say, at best, I was using up 25 minutes. It's between the passing out of the red pens, the trading of the papers, the calling out of the answers, entering the grades in the grade book. 25 minutes, maybe more in some cases, just depending on how many problems I assigned. But I wanted them to get some practice, so I would give them plenty of opportunities, to practice that skill, depending on what it was. Trying to generalize here. So, and then that was my practice. So for the teachers watching, students may not understand this, but what kind of depth of knowledge are you measuring by handing out worksheets all the time in your classroom? And genuinely, you may say there are some good worksheets out there, Derek. I use the good ones. I don't use those other ones. And that's fine if you do, and I probably did to some extent as well. But in general, a worksheet is only going to measure maybe depth of knowledge 1. That's it. And we're talking about verbs like calculate, simplify, uh, compute, things that, you can do with Google. We're not go there, but things that, honestly, things that a computer can do so much more efficiently than I can. You heard my story, how much time it took to collect all those. And I wanted to give feedback. I wasn't going to be the teacher who lowered myself to giving participation points for all these worksheets, even though students may like that practice because it helps them. In the interest of learning, it does nothing. So I wasn't going to just offer participation points and just glance at it and make sure every problem was filled in. I wasn't going to do that. That would be terrible practice, being sarcastic, because I feel like the practices that I was doing was terrible. And at the time, I didn't feel that way. But that's the land of worksheets. So what do you do now, Mr. Oldfield? Derek, if you have all this extra time, 3 days a week, 25 minutes maybe on average, you've got a ton of time now carved out of the school year. Now what do you do? Well, back in the land of worksheets, I never felt like I had any time to do any projects. I never felt like I had any time to engage students in real world application in tools like Desmos. I didn't think I had time to do Barbie Bungee for a week or two. I didn't think I had time, graph the line walking out on the sidewalk or the parking lot with students and taping the lines down on the concrete. I didn't think I had time to do those activities because I, you see what I was doing with the time. I didn't think I had time to kneel at a desk often enough and help students. I didn't think I had time to rearrange my seating and put students in positions where they may benefit from other students. I didn't think I had time for that. And now I do. Now I do. I have a tremendous amount of knee time in my classroom. I basically flipped. I do this much homework, did this much last year, probably this much this year. But now I have time to spend with students diagnosing problems. I'm giving feedback all the time. The feedback has went through the roof in my class, and I think students appreciate that, and they would miss it if I went back to the land of worksheets. I know they would. So why are they frustrated with the system that you use? To be honest with you, I'm not afraid to admit it. I use Khan Academy to address the bulk of this depth of knowledge one. These foundational skills that we all think, know that students need in order to do these higher ordered tasks that I now have time to engage in. Khan Academy does it. Why? Because it collects all this information so much more efficiently than me. In fact, most of the information I get from Khan Academy, the data that's provided me, I didn't get with worksheets. It would have taken me hours to aggregate and collate all those things. I never did that. It would have taken me hours. Okay, and so I didn't get that. Now I get charts. One of them is class-wide. I get to see which students are struggling, which students have passed, which students haven't started yet, and I get to rearrange the seating once they come into class and put them in places. Maybe I want all students in one location that are doing really well, and I want the other students over here, or maybe I want to intermix them. I get personal, individual data reports, and I can see that a student has attempted 82 problems maybe on one skill. That's amazing that they persevered that long. I want to look back and see if they've actually used the hints, maybe watch some videos. What are they doing to retrieve some support for themselves? And then I want to praise them for that. That's really good practice, and I like those things. I don't get that with worksheets. The land of worksheets doesn't offer those things to me, and now I have them. But the most important piece is the time. The amount of time that is carved out by not doing those things, and I'm more human now in the classroom. My time is more valuable. So I probably do a part 2 of this video because I have some other things I'd like to discuss. But I hope that helps a lot of people understand how do you teach math without worksheets. Thank you.